Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the official Nerd Talk channel. My name's Tyler, aka My Nerd, joined by my co-host AJ Reacts to. We are back for another episode of Originals versus Remakes, and today we are doing an episode on West Side Story to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. This is one that I am very excited to do. Um, I love doing things that celebrate, traditions. We didn't get to do it for Black History Month because we were busy. We're gonna try and do one next year for sure if we can find that's the tricky part, is finding things that have originals and remakes. But I saw this one and I was like, put that one there. That is one I want to do. So without further ado, let's get into it, starting with the original West Side Story. So the original West Side Story was released in 1961, directed by Jerome Robbins and Robert Wise, and tells the story of two youngsters from rival New York gangs falling in love and tensions rising between their friends, which builds towards tragedy. So I watched this movie in its entirety for the first time for this video. I have seen snippets of it when I was in high school. I was reading the play for English class and my teacher was showing me some of the movie. I didn't watch all of it in its entirety, and I liked what I saw. And I did not watch the original before the remake came out. So this was my first time watching this movie in its entirety. And having seen it, I really like West Side Story. I'm very hit or miss with musicals, and not in the way that most people mean, because most people, they mean, oh, I either really love a musical or I hate it. This sucks. No, that's not me, because I love most of Disney stuff, and I can watch a musical depending on how it's structured. Greatest Showman, In the Heights, Hamilton, those are my jams. You gotta make it in a way to where it works to my liking. That's just how it is. But I am a fan of musicals, but it seriously depends. And this is one that, for the most part, I really like. The production, set design, costumes, wardrobe is. You watch this movie, you're mesmerized. You're mesmerized by it all. This is a time capsule movie, and it is just, this is the pinnacle of musical filmmaking, in my opinion. And it's beautiful to look at, especially this Blu-ray. If you guys are fans of this movie and do not have this Blu-ray, please get this Blu-ray. It is immaculate. It is
I
one of the best modern
I don't
Blu-rays
know if you
ever.
can see mine, but it's way back there.
Um, the music, the most important thing, the music. As AJ says, no skips from this soundtrack, in my opinion. There are some songs that I can take or leave, but there's not a single song from this movie where I'm like, oh, this song. It's not like Scuttlebutt from Little Mermaid remakes, where I'm like, skip
Let's
immediately.
go, bud. Let's
No.
go, bud.
There's not a single song in this movie where I'm like, oh, this song. The only song to where it's kind of like that is Tony's song Maria. That
Mario.
song is kind of cringe to me, but it's kind of like, yeah, well, whatever.
I can see that.
um the acting across the board, I love. I love the actors in this movie. Natalie Wood as Maria, I think she does a very good job. Richard Beimer as Tony. You gotta love him,
Tony.
Tony. George Curious. I hope I pronounced his name right. It's Bernardo. You gotta these two leads are so damn good. Russ Tamblyn as Riff. Great. Riff is my favorite West Side Story character. It's him and Bernardo. They're right there. But Riff is so good. I love it. I love this character. Um, the pacing, this movie is 2.5 hours, and it has a 5-minute intro plus a intermission in the middle of it. You take those out, the movie works very well. But even with those things, I think that the movie is very well paced for a 2.5 hour movie. There's not a lot of fluff here. I think it moves very well. And the story here, I really love the story here. It's very simple and to the point. Most 2.5 hour movies, they have like 18 different side plots. This movie is very straightforward. You have two people from opposite, sides of New York, if you will, that they technically can't fall in love, but they do fall in love, and they had to. Yes, is it Romeo and Juliet in New York with Puerto Ricans and white people? Sure, but it works. It works, and I think it's really really good in my opinion. AJ, what are your thoughts on the original West Side Story?
So a little backstory here. I was doing my um 100 movies list in 2021, so a few years ago, and this was the last film on the list, and it was the movie I watched on December 29th. So it was like the very end of the year. And I was like, all right, this is number 100. Let's go. Let's see how this is. And I absolutely loved it. And I'm a sucker for musicals. I love a lot of different musicals. Pretty much every musical that I've seen, I dig. So um this movie has some of the most energetic performances, and it's just like so encapsulating and so enthralling to watch this film through and through. For me personally, the movie does pick up and get a lot more interesting in the second half,
It does.
but overall this movie is great just because of the energy, the performances, the colors. This movie is shot in technicolor, and it is, the colors pop and it's vibrant, and you have the musical performances and things like that, and it's a lot of lyrics too for these songs, and you are hanging on to every word when you're listening to the songs here. um the characters are compelling, and they give us enough for us to care about everyone, even if you kind of favor one side or the other, you kind of care about the characters no matter what. And yeah, man, this is a dope film, and when I watched it for the first time, I enjoyed it a lot, and then watching it for this video, I kind of like honed in on how the ending is more compelling than the beginning, but overall it's a dope movie. I love it, and I wish I watched it more. I need to watch this movie more
It's
often.
long. It,
It's
it is
long. I
long.
think that's like the only thing that really keeps me from watching this movie, on a constant loop, is because it's 2.5 hours, man. You got to carve out 2.5 hours. But overall, this is dope. It's a dope
The one more before we talk about the remake. The thing
film.
that I really like about this movie is there's sad topics, sure,
Hmm.
but the movie is so much fun. And I
Hmm.
think it's like you said, the characters are so energetic. There's
Hmm.
so much energy. Nobody looks like they don't want to be there.
Hmm.
And, I think that's really something to hone in on, especially for a musical. So
True. True.
kudos, kudos to them. Moving on to the West Side Story remake titled West Side Story, released in 2021, directed by Steven Spielberg. And it tells essentially the same exact story. I'm not going to bother, it's the same exact story.
Romeo and
And this
Juliet.
one, yeah, this one we got Rachel Ziegler playing Maria. We got Ansel Elgort playing Tony. Um, Ariana DeBose playing Anita, and that's Rita Moreno is in this movie again playing a
Hmm.
different character, but she is in this movie, and everyone else I don't really know them. Um, so I was very excited for this movie. I did see this movie when it came out. I was very excited for this movie. I was like, "Yo, this movie looks fantastic." I did not see the original before watching this movie. I saw this movie in IMAX. I was excited. And I remember walking out so disappointed. I was like, I remembered liking a lot of it, and at a point, I was kind of just bored with it. And I saw it with Kevin, and I remember he felt the same way. He liked it more than I did, but I remember walking out and just seeing everyone like give it these amazing reviews, and I was just like, I mean, it was fine, I guess. I liked it. and it was disappointing. And I think In the Heights had come out the same year, and I was like, In the Heights was
Mhm.
so much better than this. And I still think that, by the way. In the Heights is amazing. Um, so I was really curious to see how I was gonna feel about watching this movie again. And I even texted AJ. I said, I feel like I'm going to appreciate this movie a lot more having seen the original. And when it ended, sure enough, that's exactly what I thought. I really enjoyed the remake on a rewatch. Really, most of my issues have gone away. There is still one glaring issue that mostly everyone has with this movie. We'll talk about that in a second. On a technical level, this movie is absolutely phenomenal. If you had told me, oh, Steven Spielberg is going to direct West Side Story, I'd be like, that's an odd choice. I don't know why it's an odd choice, but it is an odd choice. He was in his bag with this movie. This movie looks so beautiful visually. He captured because it's a difference with filming in the 70s and then making a movie in 2021 and having to recapture the 70s or wherever this takes place,
50s.
50s. He captures it so flawlessly. It looks just incredible. And again, if you don't have a physical release of this movie, please do it. I want the 4K. I have only the Blu-ray right now. It looks fantastic. It looks so good. Um the choreography, wardrobe, across the board is great. It works. Everyone puts in their work. Mostly everyone puts in their work, and they do a good job. The songs are mostly good. Again, one issue, but the standout songs are bangers. The opening song is a banger. The Rumble is great. The scene in the so without getting too much into differences, they changed the scenery of one song, but that one song in the jailhouse, I remember even when the first time I saw that movie, I remember sitting there being like, "Wow!" Like that was phenomenal. I loved that. The again, the dancing, it really shows what you can do years later, because this movie probably had a much bigger budget than the original, and you can see where the money went. The
Mm.
sets are grander. They do grander dance sequences. It works. All of that is great. The acting. Okay. Um, Anita is phenomenal. Ariana DeBose, phenomenal. I'm probably saying her name wrong. I'm sorry. Phenomenal. I think she won an Oscar for this, right?
I'm not exactly sure. I'll tell you. So
I'm pretty sure she won an Oscar for this. I remember that being a big thing. And if she did, absolutely well deserved. She is phenomenal in this movie as Anita. She brings such a strong performance to that
yes,
role.
best supporting actress for West
Yes,
Side Story. Yep.
well deserved. David Alvarez as Bernardo, great casting, great casting. I thought he was so good in this movie, maybe even better than the original. But I loved him. Mike Faced as Riff, easily the best thing in this movie, in my opinion. I love him in this movie as Riff. I thought he was incredible. Rachel Ziegler, I think, works as Maria. I think more of her scenes work than not. My biggest issue is that some of her singing doesn't sound like her singing. I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's true or not. The reason I say that is because in the Hunger Games movie she was in, she's singing. It doesn't sound the same. So I don't know. Maybe I'm out of my mind with that. Some of the singing kind of sounded auto tuned.
Mm.
And then there's Ansel Elgort. I don't like Ansel Elgort in this movie. I don't. He is not Tony to me at all. Nah. Tony as a whole in this movie, I honestly hate Tony. That is my biggest issue with this movie. The way they wrote Tony is atrocious, in my opinion. They made him kind of a wimp. He's not the same character from the original at all. They made changes I don't like at all, and I just don't think Ansel Elgort was the right choice. I sometimes he seems very bland, like he doesn't really want to be there. And the songs, his songs are very hit or miss. Some of them are like, it was okay. Other ones, I'm just like, you're not a singer. Stop it. Like, you're not a singer, bro. Like, you cannot do this. And that's a problem when he's like the main focus of this movie. When, spoiler alert, when Riff exits this movie, the charisma from the characters goes from like here to here because Riff was like the heart of this movie, low key. And I felt that way when I first saw it, and I kind of feel this way now. But there's a scene, where he has to act shocked because he thinks Maria's dead. It's like actually horrible. I was like, oh my god, Spielberg, we couldn't run that back again. Like, woof. Other than that, like I said, those are my two big issues with this movie. I have these movies at the same scores, um, but that's really my biggest issue with this movie. Other than that, everything that they carried over from the original, I love, and I think it works, and I think it's a great modern remake. But it's got more issues than positives for me. AJ, what are your thoughts on the remake?
So I had not seen the remake until today. I watched it for this video. And I owned it. I had the 4K. I just never sat down and watched it until I needed to today. So I, I don't have very many strong feelings about this movie. It's good. I really like the technical aspects, like you were talking about. I really like, how the sets are grander, and the lighting really kind of stood out to me. I really liked the lighting in this film. There's a lot of like play with lights, and I can't remember if this happens in the original, but there's this scene where at the Rumble when they're, yeah, like each gang is coming in from each
Mm-hmm.
side of the garage or whatever,
Best shot in the
and
movie.
you see the shadows, and
Yeah.
like they're kind of like converging like up top like that, and
Mm-hmm.
it's really cool, like, and there's different things like that in the movie that I really appreciated. Overall though, like, I didn't find this film as compelling as the original for some reason. Like, I found myself like checking my phone often, like just kind of like getting distracted, like especially like in the second act. I don't know what it was. I can't really pinpoint exactly why, but they're like just the characters didn't grab me like the originals did. Now, as far as the musical sequences, a lot of them were carried over. A lot of the songs were carried over to this remake, and they were well done. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and say that they weren't well done. I just didn't have that same spark, that same feeling. And it might be because it's a modern day remake of this film, and like the original kind of like feels more authentic to me because it's set around the time that these things kind of took place. I don't know if that's what it is, but it was a good movie. Overall, like, there were some character things that I didn't love, that how they wrote them, especially towards the end with the demise of these people that died. But other than that, like, it's good. I'd say it's a solid film. I gave it a slightly less score than the original, but overall it's good.
Moving on to the similarities between the two, and these movies are very similar. They have the same exact story, beat for beat, pretty much, other than a couple of things.
Hmm.
The music is pretty much the same. I don't remember if they add a new song or not.
Not
If
that I.
there, yeah, if there was, I wouldn't be able to tell you what it was.
Yeah.
The endings are the same. Like there's not really much different other than one my again, it goes back to my biggest issues with this movie. But other than that, they're pretty much identical movies for the most part. Like you could put them side by side, and
Mhm.
you could see, yeah, these are the same scenes. They tweak some things. Moving on to the differences, and going back to those tweaks, they kind of change. Like the songs are the same, but they kind of changed what the characters are doing when they sing. So, the Officer Cruppy song, which
Yes.
is I love that song so much. It's such a fun
One
song.
of my favorites of the
Um,
musical.
in the original, they're just out on the street and they're singing
Hmm.
it, and then in the remake, they're in the jailhouse singing it.
Yeah.
Both are great. I love what they do with it in the remake. It's such a fun song.
I feel like they play around with it more in the remake, and they kind of
Yeah.
like stop in between and like do
Hmm.
like different bits and stuff throughout the song. So I like that.
The dance sequence in the beginning is different in the remake because it takes place in a school. I think they both might take place in a school, but in the remake it's like a bigger school. um okay, so
And
now we're
They
getting,
go around the city too in the opening. I don't think they
yeah.
do that in the original. I mean, they do, but like I don't know if they like mess with people's businesses and stuff like that, like they did
No,
in the
and
in.
that's okay. So that is a big difference. I'm glad you brought that up. So in the original, it was kind of just a thing of, oh, I don't like that gang because they're messing with my stuff.
Hmm.
In the remake, it's kind of a thing of the Jets don't like
The Sharks.
the Sharks because they're Puerto Rican and they don't want them to have jobs. That's kind of what it's like. They kind of change that.
Hmm.
I don't know if I love that. I feel like that's one of those things where it's like, oh, we had to change it because it's a remake. It's like, well, that's one of the things that works about the original. Why are you changing that? That's kind of unnecessary. But I guess it makes the song about living in America more impactful. So
Hmm.
I guess that's why they did that. And then there's Tony. So in the original, listen, this shit irks my soul. It
You
does.
hate this man with a passion.
I hate the writing. So in the original, Tony is like, he is the goat of the Jets. He is Riff's right hand man. He will sacrifice anything for Riff and the Jets. All that. In the remake, they make him a big fat giant wuss. To where he's like, I don't want to fight. What do we got to fight? Come on, let's sing Kumbaya with the Sharks. Oh, Bernardo, I don't got a problem with you. If I offended you anyway, I apologize, bro.
That's a literal line from the movie. I
Bro,
offended you in any way. I apologize.
the original Tony would come up to Anta Elgor and smack the dog shit out of him. Be like, "What is wrong with you? Kick his ass. What is wrong with you?" I don't like that
There,
change
th-
at all.
I will say though, like in the original, there is like at the Rumble, Tony is trying to kind of keep the peace. He's not like saying "I'm sorry," oh, like that, but he is like, "Hey, I kind of love this woman from this side, so like y'all just
Yeah,
chill,
but at
calm
least
down, everybody."
at least
Yeah.
when the time to fight comes, he's like, "All right, you ain't want to listen. All right, let's get it on." In the remake, he's I don't want to fight. Like, stop being a wuss and fight, bro. Riff is
Mhm.
like, bro, I've had enough of this. Let's go. I
Was
just
the whole scene
it's
real quick? Was the whole
mhm.
scene where he's trying to like get his gun in the original? Because I don't remember that.
No, and I don't like that scene in the
That
remake.
scene is kind of like,
So I guess that's a
mm,
new song, if you
yeah,
will, because they
yeah.
kind of sing here and there. I don't like that scene at all. I think I like the choreography is fine,
I would
but
say the choreography is good.
it's one of those like this doesn't need to be here. Like
Hmm.
you can take this out, and the pacing is better.
I
You
can see
know,
that.
but yeah, the way they write Tony, man, it is a huge like stamp on this movie that makes me like it significantly less, and it makes the relationship with him and Riff worse because
Mm.
like they're supposed to be best friends. I don't get that. from these two. It feels like Tony's been out of the gang for so long, but
He
like
was.
he's there by association.
Hmm.
But like in the original, he comes back into it, and it's like he never left. In the remake, he's like, I really don't want to be here,
Yeah.
both in the gang and in the movie.
I kind of understand why he was written that way, as far as him coming back to the gang and not really wanting to, associate it, because they give him a story where, he almost killed somebody and that affected him. Now, as far as Ansel Elgort's performance and stuff like that, I can't speak to that. Like, there are times where he's acting like he's in Baby Driver and he's like not given what he needs to give. But but yeah, this, like, as far as the character, like, I kind of like how they give him a backstory, like why he is so hesitant on coming back to the Jets. Um, but I do agree that he should have had more of a presence in the movie.
And then the last real difference I can think of is there's a lot of experimental shots in the original that are not in the remake.
Mm.
One of them I love. If you follow me on Letterboxd, that is the banner I put for this movie. It's like this one, I guess it's like of the sun coming up. It's like a red background with the outline of the city. My favorite shot of the whole movie. And then when Maria and Tony first meet up in the gym, they like blur out the whole screen. I was like, 1960, man. The experiments of 1960. I like the way they did it in the original. I still don't like the dance sequence between them in both versions.
A little,
This
it's
is
a little
corny.
strange. Yeah, it's a little
They
strange.
there are times where it's obvious this is a play. Sometimes it
Hmm.
works, other times it doesn't. I think the intro works for that aspect, but the scene where they're in the gym and they're just,
Hmm. Yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
bro, what are we
yeah,
doing here? This is stupid.
yeah.
Um but yeah, those are pretty much all the differences. Like we said, they're pretty much identical movies, and
Mhm.
someone may throw the excuse, oh well, it's just West Side Story, but in 2021. It's like, I mean, we're in an age of remakes. It's not like it's a bad remake. It's one
Not
thing
bad.
if it's bad, but it's not
Mhm.
bad. It gives the original a run for its money, but fortunately they decided to cast Ansel Elgort in this movie. Anyway, moving on to what we think the definitive version is, and see, this is hard because I love the filmmaking of both of these movies. I love the music in both of these movies. The choreography is so good, but I think I'm gonna have to go with the original purely because of Tony Spielberg. You messed it up. If if you would have nailed Tony, this decision would be harder. But Tony is the GOAT in the original, and he is, the reason that I keep watching that movie. I love that movie and I love those characters, and I can't wait to rewatch it because I'm probably gonna love it even more. But the definitive version for me is the original West Side Story.
I'm
AJ?
gonna have to go with the original as well. I like I said when we were talking about the remake, they're just at the halfway mark. I just kind of like drifting, kind of like, not really paying attention. But with the original, I didn't feel that way at all. I was compelled and gripped to the very end. So I'm gonna have to go with the original. Both are good movies, but one is great.
Mm-hmm. One is cool.
One is cool, but other is great. So
Alright, so that is gonna do it for this episode of Originals versus Remakes. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell for all notifications for future videos and live streams from us. Also, follow our Instagram. The link is down below. We are posting daily updates on movie news and trailers, etc., etc. Our next OVR will start the October spooky season. Uh, and we will have not one, not two, not three, not four, but five OVRs for you guys in October. This is the month where me and AJ go ham, and we're gonna go ham for you guys this month. And our first entry in the spooky season will be for The Ring. Very excited for
Ringo.
that OPR. We're going to be comparing the Japanese Ring film Ringu and the 2002 directed remake by Gore Verbinski. Very excited for that one. So if you guys look forward to that, once again, leave a like on this video. Also, let us know down below. Have you seen West Side Story, the original and the remake? And if you have, what is your preference? And everybody will see you on the next episode of OVR.